Hello and welcome to Stretford Paddock. This is the news on Thursday, the 19th of January. We are live, so get in the comments, get your thoughts on last night, get your thoughts on everything we are talking about today. We're talking Casemiro. Ten Hag reacts to Casemiro's ban for the Arsenal game. We'll be talking about Harry Maguire potentially leaving Man United, Scott McTominay potentially leaving. We're looking at Garnacho's contract extension as well. So if you have any thoughts on any of those topics, get them in the comments and I will go through and read them out. Let's start with Erik ten Hag. Because obviously the big story last night, Man United's draw with Crystal Palace at Selhurst Park. It felt like it was coming a little bit, didn't it? Like, you can't just win every single game between now and the end of the season. And I think we'd given away a few chances at Bournemouth and Everton and a couple of games where you just think a few sort of cracks maybe beginning to show. Not big ones, but just those sort of, we're going to drop points at some point here. And then obviously you see the free kick going in the top corner and you think, you know, the worst case scenario or second worst to a loss has happened. But the other big part of that game, as we're all aware, I'm sure, is Casemiro's booking. We knew before the game he was one more booking away from suspension. And you can see here Erik ten Hag has spoken on this. And I love this because it's not just him talking about, oh, Casemiro's going to be a big loss. Isn't it so sad that we're about to lose Casemiro? He's not going to play. He goes on to say why this is something we can recover from, why we can still win this game on Sunday. It says, first, this game was important. Every game in the Premier League is a top game. Second is Casemiro is obviously a really important player for us. He's one of the reasons we are here. We are where we are now. He said, but the last time we beat Arsenal without Casemiro, so we have a squad. We have to fill the gap, make a proper plan, and the squad have to fill it and make sure as a team we already showed how to beat Arsenal. I think that's the crucial thing with all this. And I said it last night on the review, but it is worth saying again because it feels as though, well, hope is lost because Casemiro's not playing. But this team, every player in this team or every player in this squad has beaten Arsenal without Casemiro starting. I know he came on later on in the game against Arsenal last time, and to be honest, I don't think he had his best game. This was back when he looked a little bit sort of rusty at the start of the season. But we beat Arsenal without Casemiro, essentially, at Old Trafford. He didn't start that game. I think we were already winning when he came on. So it's not as though we can't do it. Every time we've ever beaten Arsenal, ever, in the history of Manchester United, Casemiro wasn't starting. So we can do that again. It feels as though it's like, I don't know. It's like I can't even compare it to anything. It's like Messi not playing in the World Cup final. Some of the reactions on social media are like Arsenal fans thinking they've already won, and United fans thinking we've already lost, and we haven't. And it's worth remembering that because this is a game on Sunday that, you know, is a huge game for United, but it's just as big a game for Arsenal. And I think that a lot of times you see like the game against Tottenham the other day. Tottenham played as though they were the more nervous team, that they had more to lose than Arsenal. Arsenal are potentially going to be winning or aiming to win their first league title in 18 years. It'd be 19 years by the time if they actually were to win it. So there's a lot of pressure on them. This is a team that's quite thin, that they don't have hundreds of options in each area. They're not a team that want to be dropping points. And I feel as though at the minute everyone's playing Arsenal like they're the ones that have got it free and easy, like they've already won the league by 10 points. If we put pressure on Arsenal, we force them into a place where they have to come out and win the game. I think we've got a good chance of taking points off them because they are going to crack eventually. Whether that's a big enough crack to drop up the points needed to not win the league or not, but there will be cracks and they will drop points, and United have to be there to capitalise. And I think personally, there's a bit of overreaction around this Casemiro situation. Obviously, it's shit, and he's one of our best players. But come on, he's only one player. We can still beat Arsenal without him. Fergal McClements says, if United beat Arsenal, you would have to say 7 out of 9 in those 3 games was more than we could ask for. 5 points behind them, they are still catchable. If we beat Arsenal, it's all on. If we beat Arsenal, the draw last night becomes not irrelevant because obviously an extra 2 points would be great. But we would be within sort of touching distance of Arsenal. So if we think about the Premier League table at the moment, United played 19 points. We are on 39, Arsenal on 47. So we're 8 points behind them. They've got a game in hand. But if we beat them, we go 5 points behind with a game in hand, and they still have to play City twice. So we could theoretically, catch them up with them having a game in hand. Like, there's still so many games left. There's 20 games left of the Premier League season for Arsenal, 19 for United. There's so much time for things to turn around. So I don't think we should be worried about everything being lost just yet. Top four is the target, but let's not rule everything out just because Casemiro's not playing. Let's move on. Just a final reaction to last night. Aaron Wan-Bissaka getting praised by Wilfried Zaha. You see there? Wilfried Zaha hailed Aaron Wan-Bissaka after he produced an outstanding last-ditch tackle on the dying seconds. He said, any other player I would have got away from as I was running through. I had a little look back and thought, oh my God, it's Aaron. He's the only one that can do that scoop tackle. Yes, it was a great tackle. And it's kind of easy for him to say that from a perspective of picking up a point they didn't think they'd get. So, you can dish out a bit of compliments when you're feeling good. But I think it's just good to illustrate that the recovery, not just of, in that instance of Wan-Bissaka, but from where his career was 6 months ago to now, is amazing. Looking like a very good right back, looked brilliant against Manchester City, looked excellent again against Crystal Palace last night. It was unfortunate for him that we dropped those points because he basically didn't put a foot wrong all game. It is sensational, the work that Ten Hag is doing, and the work that Wan-Bissaka must have done as well, because mentally you could see, confidence-wise, he was gone. It looked as though he was a player that was struggling to control the ball. It seemed even his defending and his tackling had kind of slipped and it got away from him. The thing that made him so good in the first place, he couldn't even find that anymore. And now we're seeing, like I said, arguably as good a version of Wan-Bissaka as we've seen from Man United. Certainly right up there with where he was under Solskjaer. And I don't think many of us, myself included, I'll admit it, I never thought he'd get back to this level. And part of me almost... You started to think, well, was he ever that good? But he was. Defensively especially, he was excellent for Manchester United in seasons gone by, and we're finally seeing that again. And, if it weren't for him last night, we probably would have lost that game because, Zaha running through one-on-one with the goalkeeper in the 93rd minute, that's probably going to be a goal, isn't it? Even if Zaha can be wasteful at times. So, final point on that. Great to see Wan-Bissaka in the place that he is. Let's have a look at some transfers then, because it is the transfer window. It's the 19th of January. And we're done, I think. Weghorst is the only in, but in terms of outs, there have been a few talks. One is Harry Maguire, linking him to West Ham. Harry Maguire joined United, they go for 80 million from Leicester in 2019. But his form at Old Trafford will make that almost impossible to recoup in the transfer market. We knew that when we bought him. We were never going to sell him for profit, were we? Fuck me. It was an overpay then. Now he's, 4 years older than he was. He's 29 now. I think he was 26 when we signed him, so 3 years older than he was. His stock has fallen somewhat, but he looks like West Ham are considering a move to sign Harry Maguire on loan. Now, this is from yesterday or a couple of days ago, but it has since been reported yesterday night or yesterday evening that United won't be letting anyone leave on loan this window. But I think the point with this one is surely Maguire will be leaving in the summer. I think we can put him on that list of players that he's worth something. He's 29, so he's still got 3 or 4 years left at the level he's at now. So if you see Harry Maguire, you like what you're seeing, you're getting another 3 years minimum. So that's most of a contract if you sign a 5-year deal. He's worth something. But at the minute, he's third choice left centre-back for Man United. He's behind Luke Shaw in the pecking order. So he's worth selling, I think. And you probably, let's imagine what? Surely we're looking at around 25 to 40 million, somewhere in that range. I can't see him going for any less than that when you look at the rate that people are paying for centre-backs these days. Even slightly more than that, maybe into the 40s. I don't know, maybe I'm being slightly optimistic there, but I certainly think one of England's, as in England, the national team, one of England's best centre-backs, undoubtedly plays every game for them and is excellent usually for England in the right system, as I've said many times, for a team like a Tottenham, maybe even a Newcastle, a team that isn't holding 60-70% possession in the opposition half. They play good football. He's still a top player, but they play a slightly more emphasis on defending and clearances and winning the ball in your own box. Harry Maguire is, I would say, world class at that. If you want a player who can sit back and head away 20 crosses in a game, get 7 or 8 tackles inside his own box, Maguire is that guy. If you want a player who can run back from the halfway line alongside someone like Wilfried Zaha, Harry Maguire is not that guy. So I think it depends who we're selling him to, but I think there are rich clubs that could do with a player like Harry Maguire. So I think that there's a good chance United get some big money for him, or certainly decent money, but obviously nowhere near the 80 million that we paid. But that's one to keep an eye on. And the other one to keep an eye on is Scott McTominay, another player who almost ticks a lot of the same boxes. And this is in the, I think it's in the Sunderland Echo, I believe. But it's been reported sort of, nationwide again, that Scott McTominay is being eyed up by Newcastle again. Another team, the same team, like I mentioned before, for Maguire, where they've conceded 11 goals this season. So fundamentally, I know they've scored 33, which is more than United. So I'm not knocking their output either, but it's a season for them that has been predicated on not conceding rather than let's go and try and score loads of goals. And I think Scott McTominay works in a system like that again. And it makes a bit of sense to me. I don't think it'll happen in January. I don't think anyone's going anywhere for United for the rest of January, which is a shame because I like to sit here and talk about United buying players and United improving the team. That doesn't look likely. But Scott McTominay, again, we've got this list of players that seems to be growing. Wan-Bissaka was on it a few months ago. And again, I'm not sure that he's off it. He might still well be for sale in the summer. But we've got this list of players that seems to be growing. McTominay, Maguire, Wan-Bissaka even. Players that we think we may well be getting rid of in the summer. And I think Scott McTominay, again, there was rumours last week that United are going to have to sell players before they can buy players. I think you're probably looking somewhere in the region of 60 million quid for Maguire and McTominay, I would have thought. I can certainly imagine someone paying 30 million quid for Scott McTominay when, again, you look at some of the players that have been sold for around that fee in the past. I think, was it Ryan Brewster went to Sheffield United for 30 million quid? So, surely we can get that for Scott McTominay. That's a 60 million quid there. If we sold those two, you're looking at, a good way towards a new striker for Manchester United. And I think that's what Ten Hag wants. We've got a few comments. Andrew Bradshaw says, scout the main striker for next year now. They are doing that. Don't worry about that. Ten Hag's got his eyes and his players in mind. Certainly. There's no way Ten Hag doesn't know a list of minimum 5 strikers that he would like to start next season with. Definitely. That is definitely the case. Ken... Ken's deleted his comment there. That's interesting. He's gone back on it. He said that the United have got the worst transfer policy in the world. Interesting. Sim says United shouldn't make the same mistake that they made with Lingard. Sell McTominay while the money is there. I'm just going to look at McTominay's contract and the length of that. Apparently, it runs. He signed a new contract in 2020, I believe, that runs for 4 years. I think it runs out in 2025, actually. So a 5-year deal, 4 years with an optional 5th. So he's still got 2 years on his contract after this season. So you'd still be looking at a decent amount of money for him. But I agree with you. If we want to sell him, if you don't think he's up to the job, get rid now while we can still make some money. Let's not have a repeat of the Pogba, Lingard, Herrera. Well, the list goes on, doesn't it? Situation where we're letting people go for free when we could feasibly get a few million quid for him. The final point, let's get onto that, is Alejandro Garnacho. And this was reported again last night. He has reportedly, according to Jack Talbot, which is an interesting source because he's not someone that is known for breaking these sorts of stories, but he is someone that Jay knows, funnily enough. And Jay said that, he's someone that does have sources and just because he's not your traditional tier one doesn't mean that this isn't reliable. Again, I can't personally comment on the validity of this article other than Jack Talbot is someone that is known by, like I said, Jay knows him, and he is known to be a reputable journalist. Just because he's writing for Football Transfers, they may not be the biggest publication. I still believe there is definitely knowledge and sources that have gone into this. So the story there, Alejandro Garnacho agrees to sign new Manchester United contract. The winger has been locked in discussions over a fresh contract, which we know for sure. There you go. This is the crucial bit. The club have agreed to pay the Argentine youngster more than £30,000 per week, plus he will receive significant bonuses for goals and performance-related targets. Recent reports suggested that Madrid were keen to sign him and that the player and his camp were unhappy with United's previous contract offer. To me, for a young player, it makes sense. Let's have a very low basic wage here. I say very low, footballing terms. If you give him $30,000 a week and you say, if you score a goal, you could even double it. Do you know what I mean? If every goal he gets another 30 grand. If he gets you 20 goals a season and he's basically a 60 grand a week player, Well, that's well worth it because you could comfortably play 100,000, 150,000 a week for a player that gets you less than that. So I wouldn't be surprised if, it says there's significant bonuses for goals, performance-related targets. That's basically saying if you're the player that we think you might be, you will be paid handsomely. You'll be one of the best paid players in the squad. If you never play for us, if you sat on the bench because, your career doesn't go the way we want it to, you're getting 30 grand a week, which is one of the smallest earners in the squad. That makes sense. That should be the way forward with young players because it's such a volatile time of his career. He could either go like that or he could go like that. If he doesn't, if he's not playing for Man United in 8 months' time and he's still got 4 years left on a deal that's getting him 100 grand a week, that would be pretty frustrating. However, he could be earning that 100 grand a week by playing well, then he's earned it. Otherwise, he's getting that much smaller fee of around 30,000. So that makes complete sense to me. And finally, United seem to have some sense in contract negotiations, which is something that we haven't been able to say for, a decade. Ridiculous, really. Right, that's going to be all from me. We're going to be back this afternoon with Stephen Howson looking at a tactical setup for how Manchester United can beat Arsenal without Casemiro. We're playing him. We know that. Casemiro ain't going to be on the pitch. We know that. And we still have to beat him. Stephen Howson will show us how this afternoon or this evening. We've also got an exclusive interview with Jamie Jackson from The Guardian looking at Manchester United's takeover, looking at United's transfer targets and everything else. That will be live at 4 p.m. this evening. So make sure you come back and check that out. And like he says there, hit subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thank you for joining me this morning and we'll see you in a bit.